Okay, so welcome. Okay, just hold on. a moment. Can you hear me well? Okay, great. Yeah, the chat already, I can hear that. Okay, so welcome to the World Species Congress, the first ever Species Congress organized by Reverse the Rate and IUCN. To celebrate this, we are organizing a series of species-focused panel discussion. The theme of these events are Beyond Talk, transforming ideas into impactful local interventions. But who we are? We are from the course of called Wetland Ecology, Biodiversity and Conservation, a 6-month course given by IUCN SSC Freshwater Conservation Committee and the Fishing Cat Project. So I'm Wu, I'm from Malaysia. I'm part of the training course, one of the participants, but I'm also from Malaysian Nature Society and the Malaysia Otter Network. So today, the spotlight is on the Nordmann Greenshank.
Just to introduce myself, I'm Tiasha. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining in. I'm Tiasha. I'm the co-founder of the Fishing Cat Project, which is a partner project of Fishing Cat Conservation Alliance, and also co-founder of the course, Wetland Ecology, Biodiversity and Conservation. Over to you, Wu.
Sure, thanks, Susie. Yeah, you will be my co-moderator. So probably she has a, I think she has a problem on the video, so probably can't end video. So yeah, I will continue that. So yeah, today the spotlight is on the Nordmann Greenshank. We are all gathered here to contribute to the Nordmann Greenshank conservation in Southeast Asia. So in today's discussion, we hope to answer important questions the Southeast Asian experience to secure threatened Nordmann Greenshank in globally important coastal wetlands. But we are truly delighted and grateful to have four panelists here joining today with each of their own expertise. Okay. So first of all, we have Dr. Yong Lee from BirdLife International, Jacelyn Choon from Malaysian Nature Society, Kwan Kao Sinhasani Kim from the Bird Conservation Society of Thailand, and lastly, we have David Lee from the EAAFP Shorebird Working Group. Hi all of you. Yeah, so let's start off the discussion here today. Probably, I think first of all, it would be fair enough that maybe each of the panelists tell us briefly about your organization and your works on Nordmann Greenshank. Probably we could start off from Dr. Yong.
Hi, thank you very much. Really appreciate you for giving me an opportunity here to share a little bit about our work at BirdLife International. My name is Lee Yong. I am based at BirdLife's regional office in Singapore, and I work with many of my colleagues in different teams across Asia to effect conservation activities for wetlands and shorebirds. So we work very closely with our colleagues on science, communications, local engagement, and in some cases, we also involve ourselves in workshop that drives biodiversity-friendly agriculture and production. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Yong. Yeah, maybe I can pass the floor to David.
Hi, thanks for inviting me. It's a great honor. So my name is David Lee. I'm currently the chair of the East Asian Australasian Flyway Partnership Shorebird Working Group. So basically, the Shorebird Working Group has a quite long history, starting in 1998. So basically, it contains experts or government conservation staff across the East Asian Australasian Flyway, and we work as a group to trying to promote shorebird conservation, develop initiatives, working on conservation plans. So yeah, so this basically, we also recently set up a Nordmann Greenshank subgroup. I'm also a member of this subgroup. So yeah, glad to be able to share more about, learn more about Nordmann Greenshank conservation. Thank you.
Thank you, David, definitely. Yeah, so probably now I will pass the floor to Jacelyn. Short introduction of yourself and your works on Nordmann Greenshank. Yeah.
Hi, Tiasa and Gio. Thank you for inviting me to this meaningful panelist discussions. So I'm Jacelyn. I'm from Malaysian Nature Society. My work mostly central around the migratory shorebirds in Malaysia, particularly in Selangor State, which is one of the most developed states in Malaysia. So my works also focus on helping coordinating Asian waterbird census together with Department of Wildlife and Peninsular Malaysia. And also we most of the times when I'm doing the shorebird conservation works, I will be working more on the waterbird species survey, engage with local multi-stakeholder, trying to make my study site to be recognized internationally for the importance of waterbirds. And also, we also work on community engagement for the fishermen community and the indigenous community. Yeah.
Thank you, Jacelyn. Definitely, we will know more about your project site later when we come to questions about the coastal wetland project sites. So lastly, yeah, I would like to invite Kim Min from BCST for a short introduction about yourself and your work.
Thank you so much. Like, just call me Kim, maybe easy for everyone because my full name is going to be very hard for everyone. Kwan Khao Singh Haseni. But anyway, nice to meet you all. And it's my grateful that you have everyone here. And thank you, the organizer, try to create this opportunity that we meet people who have the same interests and also have the same dream to make everything better together. That is why I come up to my organization about Thailand. For us, we from Bird Conservation Society of Thailand, but for us, it's not just focus only about the bird. We also focus on nature as well. So, but the thing that we have some special program that we call Shorebird Conservation Program. For this program, we work like intensively on Nordmann Greenshank. And also we not really work only on the bird about the population and the survey because our mission is like human and bird coexistent. So that's why we would like to make sure like we know about the bird and the data that we got from the bird. It also can provide the benefit to the local people. And that's why this is under the concept about human and bird coexistence. And so that's why the project for us, we continue working with other partners because we have such a small organization in Thailand. In total, the staff is just only about 8 people. But the thing that's most important is like we have different agents that we work with the government, with the academic people, and also with the community. So that's why this is quite a kind of the broad idea that I just would like to have some detail about us, and more people have some question, feel free to have a chat box, please.
Sure, thank you, Kim. Yeah, wow, this is a lot of information, a lot of works that you have done. So so for the participants, along on the way during the discussion, if you have any questions, feel free to raise up your hand. There's a raise hand button at the bottom, and then we will definitely allow you to unmute and also to ask questions. But if you're too shy, feel free to put up your questions in our chat box. We will read it out to you. All right. So let's get the ball rolling. So probably I think the very first question that everybody has in their mind probably is the status of Northern Greenshank exactly. Like how is the population doing and how well is it doing in each of the range country. But probably maybe David could shed some light on the overall status of Northern Greenshank in this whole range of Southeast Asia. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Actually, I personally had a very strong interest to Northern Greenshank since I worked in Malaysia for quite a few years in Wetlands International. So I had went to the field. Then eventually we got 70 over Northern Greenshank in front of me. I was very shocked because at that time we understand the Northern Greenshank had a very small population. Then we were trying to get more information from Thailand, from Sarawak, from other places in Southeast Asia, because we are the stronghold of the wintering ground. So years after that, Christophe Jacelyn came to me and saying, "Okay, David, why not we do a compiling of the information, trying to get a picture on the Northern Greenshank over the wintering ground." So basically, we contact experts in each country and trying to gather information. That was a couple of years ago, and eventually there was a small paper published on weather study. I think we estimate the population about 900 to 1,200 something, because it's very hard to get an exact figure. Particularly many of the wetlands in Southeast Asia are very inaccessible, very deep mudflat, and very hard to do the survey, require a lot of resource. So years later, then there's this site in China called Tiaozhini, has drawn a lot of attention because spoonbill sandpiper was found in this site. Then there's a lot of expedition done, and while during the spoonbill sandpiper survey, we realized that there's a lot of Nordmann's Greenshank also found in this site. And the years of survey, they realized some years the population they counted is more than the population we estimated. So there was 1,002, then later 1,005, and last year someone even recorded 1,008. So basically, we see that good number of Nordmann's Greenshank has been recorded because breeding ground is very hard to get a full picture. It's a huge land, and the survey can only done in a small part of area which Nordmann's already known. So basically, this current world population probably is from this count in Tiaozhini, that give people a picture that probably it's around 1,500 to 2,000. But this doesn't mean the population were increasing because it could be just meaning earlier some of the sites was not known and the bird was not recorded, or it could be possible other areas that suitable for Nordmann Greenshank earlier, which no longer suitable now. Therefore, the bird have to concentrate to one or two sites only. So yeah, so this is what we know about this species. Definitely, it's still under within 2,000 individuals and an extremely rare bird in this world.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you, David, for a very detailed and overbroad of kind of an explanation. But how about specific in the range country, like for example in Malaysia or Thailand? Maybe Jacelyn and Kim could give us some insight into the status of Northern Greenshank in these two countries. Yeah, Jacelyn could go first. Yeah.
Oh, I can go first.
Yeah,
Okay. So for the status of Northern Greenshank in Malaysia, as what David mentioned, it is really difficult to study the entire regions, and most of the surveys are being done in the place that they already know. So based on how, as far as I know based on the counts from Asian Waterbird Census and a few published resources, as also the paper that was published by mentions by David, they were published in Breeder Study. In Malaysia, we have hundreds over Northern Greenshanks, and most of the Northern Greenshanks are concentrated in few locations. The highest count would be Telok Air Tawar, followed by North-Central Selangor Coast, which is at Kapar Power Station. But these counts has already been historically recorded, the high number that these places are the key site for Northern Greenshanks. But there are also other areas that we haven't really discovered to fully understand how did this being distributed along the west coast of Peninsular Malaysia. But overall, the populations of these species is considered rare and uncommon and only be found in specific location. It would be great if we can have a more comprehensive study to look at the bigger overviews of these birds. Yeah.
Thank you, Jacelyn. Yeah. How about Kim from Thailand side?
Sure. Like for us, like recently, about last 3 years, we have a kind of intensive survey of Nordmann Greenshank around Thailand. If everyone like can think about how is the Thailand map look like, it's going to be more helpful that you can think about like we have the inner Gulf of Thailand and we also have another part in Andaman Sea. So the thing that we try to focus on is like especially the inner Gulf of Thailand first. But for the first time that we try to do the survey, we do all of that. But anyway, the time limitation, that's why we realized that the data that we have is really interesting. Like we can identify the key site. This is the first thing. And the second thing is like where is the top 3 area. So the first one is they call in Pak Thale. Pak Thale is in the name of the place. And that is the land that we see as he purchased the salt pan. I think some of people maybe not really imagine how is a salt pan look like. It looks like a salt lake, but that is turned to be a very good habitat for the Nordmann Greenshank. And this site is a kind of the semi-natural habitat, and also this is turned to be the wetland area as well. And I can sense of the Nordmann population is in Patlay. Core is a kind of the mud flat, and it's quite the lovely site as well. It's in the east of Thailand. And this one is called Prasea. It's in the east part. And we also have the third side that is very important. It's in the southern part of Thailand Sea anyway. So that's why I just want to say like this is the way that we try to study about the Nordmann Greenshank. But the thing that I can say, like in general, I can say like people's estimated population around the world is like 105,000. What? No, sorry, 1,500 Nordmann Greenshank. But we found in total almost 500. It means about like nearly 1/3 of Nordmann Greenshank is in Thailand. Even we not really do more intensive survey. But one more thing that we think is very interesting about the Nordmann Greenshank is like in the past, we're not really thinking like a kind of the semi-habitat like a salt pan can be a great potential for the some highlight habitat of this species. And the second thing that I would like to show more is like for Thailand, we also consider this species is protected one. That means wherever they fly is also already protected by the law. Like some protected species have to be in the protected species. But anyway, that's why we need the power of the human, especially the citizen science, to get more data of the Nordmann Greenshank. That's why we also create some campaign related about the Nordmann Greenshank to share about the information. And this is include about AWC. And also we have their own campaign about Nordmann Greenshank by itself. And we work with the international researcher that try to do put the satellite tracking that we can learn more about the Nordmann Greenshank. Let me sip my mouth because I talk too much already, and let people talk more later.
No worries, you're giving lots of good information and a lot of good knowledge as well on this Nordmann Greenshank in Thailand in particular. But wow, yeah, it seems like there's a lot of survey that needs to be done. Of course, there's a lot of challenge as well when conducting the survey. Like just now David mentioned, it's not easy to survey the Nordmann Greenshank. But how about the threats information about the Nordmann Greenshank? Are they available? Are they well known? Probably maybe Dr. Yong can give us some insight into the threats towards the Nordmann Greenshank.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the threats, as you mentioned, of course, is a very important topic for us conservationists to try to address. Shorebirds all around our East Asian Australasian flyway is facing a lot of different kinds of threats. Some of these threats may differ from country to country, but there are many threats that are quite similar, and therefore the lesson learned from one country could well be, applied to develop solution in other countries. I think for the case of the Nordmann Greenshank, I see, and perhaps my colleagues would agree, is that the topmost threat that the species is facing right now across Southeast Asia is that of habitat loss, and complemented by the wider problem of limited protection. As we know, here in Southeast Asia, a lot of the protected areas that are established in our part of the world has focused on forest habitats, mountain habitats, and everywhere we look around in Southeast Asia, we find that there's very low, or you could say limited representation of the intertidal flats in the protected area network. So for example, if you just cast yourself across the region, there are very few such protected areas. I think in the case of Thailand, as my colleague Kim Im has mentioned, there's more and more interest in shorebirds, and even BCST has led its team to develop the first ever shorebird nature reserve in the country. So that's really a milestone for shorebird conservation. But by and large, there are still huge gaps for shorebird conservation in the region. As I mentioned, habitat loss is a big issue. And to top that off, coastal areas, especially where mudflats and mangroves are areas that are easy to reclaim and develop. So all over the region, if I wanted to extend a port, or I wanted to extend some of these industrial areas, it will be logical to build it on the coast. And in fact, as I speak, this is a threat that we face immediately in certain parts of Indonesia, especially in Sumatra, where there's a lot of planned coastal development, and that immediately threaten some of our really important Nordmann Greenshank sites. So addressing this threat is important, and I think one of the key ways we could advance to deal with the issue of habitat loss and lack of protection is to create more protected areas and also community-driven protected areas on the coastline of Southeast Asia. To a smaller extent, I think I also should highlight the threat of hunting, unsustainable hunting in some cases, illegal hunting in other cases. Whether it's unsustainable or illegal depends on country, because legislation varies from country to country in Asia. But in recent years, one of the biggest problems that my colleagues have found out through their work in different parts of Vietnam and in China is the issue of mist nets. Mist nets are now easily available, and people can buy mist nets from the online platform. Sometimes the mist nets are used to protect the aquaculture ponds from birds that are perceived to be pests because they eat the fish, or sometimes in our clam farms, they eat the clams, but a lot of birds get killed as a result of the mist net, becoming the so-called collateral damage. And in certain parts of the region, mist nets are also directly used for hunting birds. So our research led by BirdLife and our team of collaborators have found that mist nets are used directly to trap birds for food in many regions of Southeast Asia, and occasionally Nordmann's Greenshank are harmed as a result. So in summary, I would say that these are the two top main threats, but there are also other broader threats that I think merit a more in-depth discussion. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Yong. Wow, there's a lot of great information, especially where we cover lots of countries as well. As much as we would like to include all these countries into our discussion, but we only can include Malaysia and Thailand. But hopefully there's such platform that allow all these countries to share and also to try to think of a solution together as a transboundary cooperation. But let's zoom into the issues of habitat loss and probably hunting if there is this threat in the site. Well, we also have this Jacelyn and Kim Im, you could tell us more about the specific project site that just now when you introduced the place where you work. How does these threats actually affecting the shorebirds in your project site, especially on the Nordmann's Greenshank? Probably some findings that you could share with us. Yeah. I also probably could press more if there's one serious critical local conservation issue that you are facing in your project site. Yeah, maybe Kim Im or Jacelyn, any of you could take it up first. Maybe Kim Im first, yeah.
Okay, so let me share with you. As I say, it's like a top 3, it's like a key site, but in different sites, they have like a different condition anyway. For example, like in the salt farm, one of the threats is like people, maybe they can try to turn that salt pond to be something else. As Dr. Tingley already mentioned, like it's easily to turn this kind of the habitat to be the something else, because it's like first people thought this is not a high value land, but now it's turned to be very more expensive in terms of the land type. So that's why anyway, the thing if this salt pond is gone, we lost the habitat of the Nordmann Greenshank for sure, especially in Pak Thale site. That's why BCSC decided to purchase the land to protect the site. But anyway, when we try to purchase the land to protect the site, we can just preserve only 10% of the land. Another 90% is still have like owned by private owner. So that's why I mean the thing that we have to work harder is mean like we would like to make sure like other local communities still continue to do the salt production in the salt pond, because this is a kind of the habitat of the Nordmann. So that's why this is the kind of the key and the first information that I would like to share with you. For the second side, it's quite different. Like I say in Prasad is mostly is in the mudflat. But in the mudflat, that easily that people turn and change the land, try to be a lovely resort or the luxury place for the vacation. Or another side, people thought it's like mudflat. It's a kind of the place is like not really high value in somehow, and they want to convert that to the mangrove plantation. So, but anyway, this is a kind of the change the habitat side. So that's why this is the place that we have to work more with the government, and we have to make sure like we also work with the local community. That's why the thing that is like spotlight on the local community, like how they can generate the income from the Nordmann Greenshank. That's why now from Thailand perspective, we would like to make Prasai to be the nature-based tourism on Nordmann Greenshank. Even now, we have like a big logo and big sculpture of the Nordmann Greenshank. And we sure like this place can be the attract many birders to visit the site for Nordmann as well. And this is a way to generate income for the local people. And then there will be our side to protect this kind of the species together. I just want to share like this. Thank you.
Thanks, Kimmy. Norman Greenshank ecotourism. That is a very fresh idea. Of course, yeah, Tiasa. Hi, Tiasa. Do you raise up your hand?
Yeah. Hi, Kim. Thanks. I just wanted to ask, do we have in Thailand, do we have a wetland law per se? Because Thailand is also a Ramsar signatory. That is one question. And the second is, you mentioned how, mangrove plantation is actually a threat. If we go, if we go about planting mangroves everywhere, even on exposed mud flats, which are the foraging grounds for these birds. So is there a real, is there a drive now in Thailand to capitalize on these, carbon credit projects, so as to speak? So these are the two questions I had.
Great, thank you. So let me respond the first question first about the wetland conservation. We also have the program and related about the Ramsar site, but doesn't mean like all the site or the Nordmann Greenshank habitat is under the Ramsar site. This is the one thing. So that's why it's also have other places that are under the Ramsar site, but it can be in under Flyway site. This is the first thing that I would like to share with everyone. And the second thing that I would like to say, like, doesn't mean like the wetland conservation is not really work well. In this term, it still work well, but work well in some area. That's why we try to create the new things to make more supporting with the government and also support the local communities. So the idea that you ask more about like the second thought about like we try to do more about the Nordmann Greenshank, about the ecotourism and also about other things. This is a kind of like a new thing that we want to make sure like we can generate income for them, right? But I mean, for this case, we still work with the government as well, because one point is in the carbon credit is a kind of the trendy thing that people thinking that they want to do more, but doesn't mean I against the carbon credit and plant mangrove forest. I love mangrove forest, okay? I just want to be honest, but we have to plant in the right place. That is the most important one. So that's why somehow people, they try to claim the land to plant the mangrove. But anyway, they not really have like a deep or the basic idea or have the data and good enough data to choose the right size. So that's why this is turned to be very important thing that BCSC with other organization, we try to push it like put and plant in the right place that provide a great benefit. But to make sure like we're not really thinking only some of the species, we're not really thinking like one aspect of the climate change as the carbon credit. But we have to make sure like we also protect biodiversities. And this is a kind of the thing that we try to combine things together. I hope I respond to your question.
Yes, thanks. Just one more clarification, Kimim. So India is also a signatory of the Ramsar Convention. However, so getting a Ramsar tag is a huge prestigious issue, definitely, but it is not legally binding in our country to just have a Ramsar tag, even though it is big, like it is still something, it is still giving importance. We have, so there is a wetland law that prevents, it is supposed to prevent conversion of wetlands no matter where they are, Ramsar, non-Ramsar. So do we have a wetland law in Thailand, or is wetland protection dependent on a wetland getting a Ramsar tag?
Very good question. So I just want to say like, once we say this is a Ramsar site, doesn't mean like we have some specific legal and the regulation to manage that Ramsar site, okay? So we will try to create another protected area by another level of that. So that's why like some place is the Ramsar site is a protected area, but also another place is not like protected area at all. So that's why in this case, we have to be more cautious about that. And also now we changed some regulation. In the past, like ONEP or the Office of the Environmental Resources Planning manage about the flyway and about the Ramsar sites. But anyway, now we change the regulation and authority about the Ramsar to the Department of Water. So that's mean like the idea of the way to manage that is quite new. But we would like to make sure like they still have the aspect of the biodiversity conservation. But it's still on process, but because it's just changed 6 months, this is quite new things.
Right, and thanks. I mean, we all love mangroves for sure. I mean, our species, fishing cat, one of the habitat of it is mangroves. But yes, I mean, we are also trying to say that different types of wetlands are there. So let's prioritize all of them. Thanks, Kimin. Please go ahead, Wu.
Yeah, sure. Thanks,
You're
Kimi.
welcome.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah, so probably, yeah, we could hear from Jacelyn from the side of Malaysia here. Yeah.
So hi, from the Malaysia perspective, if I zoom more into my study site, North-Central Selangor Coast, the Norman Greenshank is mostly found in the southern region, which is a Klang, Kapar Power Station. The landscape is combinations of private land, which is owned by a private corporate, and followed by a bigger extent into a mangrove island, which is the Klang Islands, the collective of a few mangrove islands in that particular areas. So based on the previous studies, there are birds, or most of the shorebirds over there will be foraging in a very wide extent surrounded by the mangrove area, and will go on to rest in the power station during high tide. But the main threat for Norman Greenshank in Malaysia, I would say it mainly attribute to the habitat loss, especially when during our national energy policy changings, and all coal power plants will be phasing out to go into more greener energy, biofuel. And this will also be a result in closing down of the power stations and phasing out of all these power plants to go on others business. While this land is owned by private owner, then the complexity comes when it's difficult to deal with the lands of a private owners, which I think is what Kim shared just now is actually a very good learning cases for me to learn how it can be applied to speak to the private owner to protect this species. There's much more to learn about, but in that particular place, habitat loss is the most serious. And yeah, so in that cases, what we are trying to do in North-Central Selangor Coast is that we are trying to select most of these hotspots. What are the places that are important for different shorebird species? And in the southern, the Klang region, particularly power station, we look into Norman Greenshank and try to make it into a flyway network site to have the local multi-stakeholder to at least start recognizing this place is important to the migratory shorebirds. So we take it a step by step for them to start recognizing the importance, and we try to look for solutions. What will happen when the habitat loss, and will the habitat loss be prevented with the solutions we try to advocate to the stakeholders? Yeah, that's all from me.
Yeah, thank you, Jacelyn. I captured that you mentioned flyway network. This is very, very important and key word here. But probably maybe not many people will actually understand what is a flyway network and how it actually helps in terms of actually protecting all the shorebird site. Probably maybe Dr. Yong or David could shed some light on what is exactly a flyway and how it works. And I believe BirdLife International is the forefront, is the lead here in terms of the flyway network initiative. But how exactly this formula will actually help countries, partners of BirdLife in terms of getting the recognition, but protect this habitat. Yeah.
I think this is I'm more than happy to chip in on this with David. So David and I, we work regionally, and I just also want to draw the attention of participants to a very important mechanism in Asia that all of us on this call work with very closely to drive flyway conservation. This is none other than the framework called the East Asian Australasian Flyway Partnership. It's a very powerful network of organizations representing all kinds of stakeholders, not just NGOs like me, but also brings together the private sector, but most importantly, it brings together many Asian governments across the Flyway, and as well as our colleagues in United States and Australia and New Zealand, which are also part of our Flyway, which we always tend to forget. So they are all very important players as part of the Flyway partnership. The Flyway partnership has a mechanism for us to recognize the importance of selected wetland sites that have met internationally accepted criteria. So I need to emphasize internationally accepted criteria. So for a site to be recognized as such, it needs to demonstrate that this site has a certain number of migratory birds in this flyway. Typically, we use what we call the 1% criteria. So for a site to be recognized as such, you need to have 1% of the known population of a particular water bird in the flyway. So obviously these sites are very important because they support significant number of these birds. And oftentimes a site that has been recognized as a Flyway Network site can also progress eventually down the road to become a Ramsar site. So the Flyway Network sites are very powerful and important steps for us to protect, to recognize wetlands. And very importantly, I also want to mention that having a wetland that you work in to be recognized as a Flyway Network site is also a source of national pride and local pride, because we feel like we are part of the family of conservationists working to preserve and protect a wetland that supports such important congregation of birds. So for me at BirdLife International, I work very closely with my colleagues at the Flyway Partnership, and of course with David. I know David has mentioned this himself, but David is also the site manager of a very important Flyway Network site here in Southeast Asia. We work with them. Ultimately, the government authorities and agencies, they have the mandate as a partner to the Flyway to recognize and designate these sites. So it's very important for us, working in the conservation field, to collaborate closely with our government counterparts to make sure that we have a shared vision and we work towards protecting wetlands that we all recognize as important. But I should cut myself here and I should pass the floor to David to add on, because he has a lot of hands-on and has been working on flyways for a long time, even before I was born. And I'm sure David can weigh in on this topic very much. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Dini. I'm not that old. Okay, so basically, I think Dini has described the EAAFP, the partners plays a very important role, and also the Flyway Network Site as another mechanism to protect sites, which many, of course, are Ramsar sites or World Heritage Site and so on. So I just want to bring another layer of mechanism of the EAAFP, which is the working group. So basically, along the partners, which are working at the NGO government, we also have a working group that dealing with species conservation issue and also particularly conservation issue. For example, Dini mentioned about hunting, so there's task force trying to deal with a hunting issue, and for example, Dini mentioned about habitat degradation or loss. So basically, there are ELOC task force or other regional task force. But another task force which I want to be focused on is about species level of task force. For example, there's a working group. For example, there's crane working group, and there's annotator working group. There's working group on seabird. So shorebird, of course, is one of the important one as well. Shorebird connects people between Alaska, Siberia, all the way to Australia, New Zealand. So basically connects the whole flyway. So so basically the shorebird working group is trying to link to people and to support the partnership, support the partners. So basically, webinars like today is one of the things that Shorebird Working Group are doing as well. So basically, we're also trying to identify species to working on. So basically, Shorebird Working Group identified the Nordmann Greenshank as one of the very important priority species for this flyway. Even though Nordmann Greenshank actually is very rare, there wasn't a particularly group. Of course, there's a lot of conservationists as individuals here. Ding Li, myself, came in Thailand, and so on. And then we recently had a researcher, Philip Maliko, PhD student, been doing a lot of tracking of shorebird in a breeding ground, and now he moved to the wintering ground in Thailand, in Cambodia or other part of the flyway, trying to see how the bird migrates between the breeding ground to wintering ground and from the wintering ground to breeding ground. So shorebird working groups is something that we can fill in a gap. So basically, that's how we start to look into this Nordmann Greenshank conservation issues. So we have recently established a subgroup for the Nordmann Greenshank. Actually, all these panel people are in this group. So one of the issue is we are looking into develop a species conservation plan. So this is something that the group probably will start looking at what's the current status and what's the conservation issues we are facing. A lot of issues we discussed today and how we're going to, address it. And then this plan can be useful to the government, to the NGOs, or to the EAAFP to implement. So basically, as Choon was mentioned about earlier. So today we only have people from these two countries, actually three, yes. Both Ding and me working in Singapore. Then we have Thailand and Malaysia, but this issue, Nordmann Greenshank actually found in many of the countries. So we hope to, continue the discussion through the Nordmann Greenshank subgroup, so that we can, follow up from the discussion today and look into further issue how we can support as a team. So I'm sure that Ding Li and I are more than happy to support countries or support NGOs in the countries that to develop conservation actions together. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Very important point also when I think both Dr. Yong and David did mention the stakeholder, the government. So as I'm a colleague of Jacelyn, so I very much know about her work on getting the stakeholders, government on board on getting the flyway recognition for North-Central Selangor Coast. And I think this is a very important step, which is a very important local intervention. And probably this is my question probably to Jacelyn and Kim Im, like what is the level now with actually the understanding of the stakeholders, especially the governments in terms of flyway, knowledge about flyway, and how much did they recognize this flyway into their conservation plan or development plan? Yeah.
Maybe I'll go first.
Sure.
For
yeah.
the understanding of EAF East Asian Australian Flyway, in our most recent National Biodiversity Policy, which is 2026 until 2035, actually one of the East Asian Australian Flyway partnerships is mentioned as part of the target to get the local stakeholder in recognizing the important site for wetlands and waterbirds. And it is actually being factored into our national policy, but the local state governments and the local stakeholder itself is still not having a very strong concept about what is actually a flyway network site. And most of them might be having hesitations in embracing the ideas of it, because for them, it might be very much to a commitment that the place cannot be developed at all. There's no coexistence between waterbirds as well as the people. But what we are trying to do when engaging them is to tell them like, all these flyway network site is not just about biodiversity protections. It is actually to protect the habitat so that both people and the biodiversity can survive in the habitat. And with our communication with different stakeholders, we actually shows that most of them are open to the idea of it, but they would like to know more before they actually commit into something. So what we have been doing, we are doing like meetings after meeting and workshops after workshop to show them exactly how it is like to be a Flyway Network site, what are the processes and what will be the benefit, and how it can be managed, how it can be factored into their local plans and to be aligned with their own local structure plan as well. So this is how most of the things that we have been doing to get their understanding. So I would say that there are much more work to be done before they fully embrace the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, Tiasha, you have the questions? Yeah. Of course, I think before Tiasha asks the question, Dr. Yong will have to excuse himself for some urgent matters. So thank you, Dr. Yong, for able to join us as a panelist, and really privileged to have you, from BirdLife International, and heard your lot of works from you. So we will surely keep in touch and hope all the future, all the best for you.
Thanks very much. Yeah, and pleasure to be here. I think my colleagues Jacelyn, David, and Kim In will keep the discussion going, and lots of great learning from their fantastic conservation work on the ground. Thanks for having me. See you all very soon.
Thanks. Okay, Tiasha, yeah, you can ask the question.
Hi. So I wanted to ask so there seems to be Pan-Asia, whether it's South Asia or Southeast Asia, there seems to be a lot of focus now on development which might not be ecologically sustainable. And in many countries, we are seeing a dilution of environmental laws to make land more productive, so as to speak. So, for example, in some of the countries like Cambodia and Vietnam, there's a lot of investment coming in to develop coastal wetlands. Is it the same thing that you're seeing there? And when you're trying to speak to government stakeholders or stakeholders to, convey the message that there are benefits to having protecting the flyway sites, how does it stand when contested with another form of development, which might bring in more money, or which might seem more convincing to stakeholders?
I think from the context of Malaysia, when we're trying to push these ideas, is we try to think from their shoes is most of the times when they're doing develops, they might be developing resorts for ecotourism and etc. But what we think of is that we also do community engagement with the local community, and we figure out actually the local fishermen would be more supportive of the ideas to keep the habitat quality, to conserve the area, to keep the habitat quality, and fishery is one of the things that they have been thinking about. So we try to communicate with the local fishermen and also with to get their support from the local people, and to see how we can push the ideas together with the local stakeholders. And this is also, we try to look into their local structure plans and their local strategic plans. Most of the time, even though they are trying very much to push forward to develop the site, to make the site more productive, efficient, but at the same time, they will also have targets to preserve some of the areas for sustainable development goals and others targets that they have to achieve. And most of the time when they do not actually give an example of one of the stakeholders that we engage, they actually have interest to develop the places, but they are not aware that the places are actually important to the migratory shorebirds. So when we explain to them in a way that they can understand, that we look into what are the environmental sensitive area that they designated in their strategic plan, and we explain to them when we are talking about this place is important to the birds, but it also means that it's equivalent to be conserved as an environmental sensitive area in your strategic plan. So what about you consider this to be conserved and look for other places to work on to do things about how it can be sustainably developed. Yeah. It's just how we how we talk to them. Yeah.
Thanks for your answer.
Yeah, thanks, Jacelyn. How about Kim In? Yeah. What is your take
Yeah,
on
all
this?
right. Sure. For my national level, like we can split in like different stakeholder that I would like to clarify with today. The first is about the government agent. But once when I talk about the government agent, it still having many level as well. We have like the same exactly like in Malaysia, we have the central government, right? Like people maybe they know it quite well, how important about the flyway. They try to push the good policy in each places. But anyway, in terms of the local stakeholder, like people who stay closer to the site, it's the local government. I don't think they have like very well understanding about the flyway idea. So that's why this is the thing that is very important, that we try to work with them more, but doesn't mean like they have a zero idea about that. For example, like Park Tale, we keep work with them at least 4 or 5 years now. They quite understand how important about their site. In Prasad, we start work with them about like 2 years. But anyway, I can say like still have many places like in Krabi that I try to mention a bit. But Krabi is in southern part of Thailand. They not really have much understanding about in terms of like how important of the site. But doesn't mean like this is their fault, because this is quite a kind of like something from the sky. And for themselves, they not really understand how is this birth is very important and how this can generate income for them, right? And also if they protect them, what exactly benefit that they can get. That's why we have some program that we try to work on ecosystem service in different places, much that we can, but also in many sites that people should try to be focused. That's why this is another stakeholder that we try to focus on. It's about other local NGO and local communities. But this is the thing that's why we try to form the conservation group, especially in the local level. Now we work about in around 8 places, but anyway, we still try to make them to be stronger, to have a better understanding about the flyway initiative, right? But in detail, I can say like now they get the idea about the flyway. But if we would like them to understand like how important and try to identify the bird, is still very hard. Even I try to talk about like nature bird tourism. Sound is wonderful, but to make sure like to produce a local guide, it's not that easy. So that's why my point is like we have different level that we have to work with, even by the meeting like Jacelyn did as well. And also we try to form the group. That is the way that we try to make everything more efficiency. And I also try to work with David Lee as well to get more idea from other countries. And this is why the way that we try to make sure like we form the team and we make sure like our connection is stronger and we have a knowledge sharing to make sure like everything is getting better together. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Kimi. So yeah, just the discussion is really going great now, but of course, time is always the enemy of ours. So we left 5 minutes of the discussion. So if any of the participants today, you have a question, burning questions for the panelists, please unmute yourself. Feel free to unmute yourself, or you can actually put it in the chat box. And of course, we will ask the panelists. And yeah, thank you, Tiasha, for co-moderating. So probably we left 5 minutes of our discussion. Probably I think the most important questions now is probably because this is the recording that we probably hopefully that stakeholders, government officials will actually view this recording. But what are the most important steps now that probably you think that needs to be taken in order to start this kind of initiative? Like for example, in getting the Flyway network go out to actually get the stakeholders, government to really understand and recognize the Flyway network. But what would be the probably most important steps or actions that you think that should be taken with the governments and local communities as well? Probably we could go around the table and probably we start with David first.
Yeah, thank you. I think conservation it's never been an easy thing. So basically, I was in Malaysia, 15 years ago, and that time we were trying to protect some of the sites that important for shorebird. So there's some success while there's things are progressing, which I'm very pleased. For example, Bako Bando Bay was nominated at the Flyway Network Site during the period, and now probably they are looking at establish as a national park. So while other important sites in Peninsular Malaysia, like Teluk Aitawa, and also the Northern Selangor Coast, these are the two very, very important areas for Peninsular Malaysia. So they concentrate most of the shorebird, which is extremely important. We cannot afford to lose. So basically, I'm very pleased that local community groups in Penang. So basically, Shorebird Peninsula, Malaysia, something, the group they established. Then also M&S been quite actively pushing for Northern Selangor Coast. So yeah, so basically I feel sometimes things don't come easily, but continue effort one after another, go on to talk to government and make sure that no development happening at this key important sites, and probably the key issue, yeah, because we as a conservation groups, we really have to keep up the information, the monitoring, and ensure firstly there's no development at the site, and if further opportunity, lobby more community stakeholder, tell them how important this area are. For of course, I think Kim Min bring a key message is how community can benefit from this conservation effort. Lobby them to join a group. So basically, I think conservation will help fishermen because if there's a mangrove ecosystem, then better fishery product, and then the ways how we could help bring ecotourism to this area. So help to train community to be able to do ecotourism activities, selling some the ecotourism product. So for it may come slow, and if we can't get a government buy-in immediately, continue to promote, then I'm very pleased to see the progress actually. Even though, of course, we still don't have a network site, don't have a national park, but if that happens, I think it's an amazing achievement. But at least for now, these sites are still in good shape and good condition. I think the conservation group are doing very wonderful work. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Yeah. So maybe I can ask Kim Min.
I
Kim
would
Min,
like to say, like David covered all the great point already. I just want to add a few things on top a little bit. I feel like the most important thing is like how we can try to make the conservation, especially this species, to be the mainstream focus. Because at the moment, I feel like people really focus around our birder communities, right? Conservationists, but how we try to get more attention from the public cities. That's why this is a kind of the big movement that I think we all should be concerned and take it in account to make this conservation to be a more impactful in terms of this species. And also the second thing, because this is a migratory species, I think it's hard to work just really alone by in each country. That's why we have like this networking side. Collaboration is kind of the key things that we should work with, and we try to make sure like we try to work together among the countries. And the last thing that I would like to touch, and maybe even people already touched a lot about that, is about try to make sure like we not really focus about, not really forget about the local people who live nearby the site. And they are the most people who have the most power to help us to conserve this species. So that's why this is a key thing that I would like to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim Min. Maybe we will have our last panelist, Jacelyn, to maybe have a key message from her. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. It has been a really great discussions. I learned a lot from other panelists as well. I think Kim Min and David already covered a lot of the important points and what to move forward for Nordmann Greenshank conservation. As what I think of is, in Nordmann Greenshank is a migratory species, and they will go to different wintering grounds and breeding grounds. What is important is a platform like this to bring people together. Different sites, they will have their own conservation initiative, but it doesn't mean that we have to always be in competition. People can actually work together to conserve all these sites together so that it not just one side, but other sites are doing the conservation work. Eventually, it will benefit the Nordmann Greenshank. So that's how I think platform like this will be very important for people to understand. It is important for everyone to work together. Yeah, even though it's not just one side.
All right, thank you so much. I hope today the discussion will be a start for something for Nordmann Greenshank, bringing more people together to deal with more to deal with more issues that we have mentioned, especially on the site protection. So so that's the end of today's discussion, and hopefully the participants today also get lots of knowledge and good information, and hopefully you yourself probably you could start something on Nordmann Greenshank in your site, and you know who to look for now. From Thailand, from Malaysia, from Singapore. So these are the experts that you could look for. So thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, thank you to the panelists, David, Kim Mim, and Jacelyn. Yeah, we will surely keep in touch. And thank you, everyone. Have a good evening and good dinner section. I will close the Zoom room now. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.